Shabbos. This week, Rabbi Shnei Ashkenazi, Chabad rabbi in Israel, began a class in the actual Knesset. And he asked the question, what is the qualities that you need for leadership? People in the Knesset, that's what they're there for. What makes one a leader? So we take it from this week's Torah portion Vayechi. You have the children of Yaakov coming and standing around his deathbed before his passing, and he blesses them. Well, the first three tribes he doesn't bless. And then the fourth one, Yehuda, he begins with saying, Yehuda, ata yiducha achecha, Yehuda, you will be acknowledged by your brothers, and you're going to be the leader forever. You and your children will be the leaders of the Jewish people. And as the Talmud tells us, that not only King David, who comes from Yehuda, was king in his time, but the kingdom of David passes on from to his children, his prodigy, and ultimately, even as the Jews are exiled from Israel, the exilarch, the leader of the Jewish community in Babylonia, the spiritual leadership of the Jewish community within Israel and outside of Israel, all came from Yehuda. Now, it's remarkable. Think about it. At this moment, when Yaakov is blessing Yehuda, Yosef is standing there. Yosef is the king. Yosef has succeeded in being an incredible leader for the world. He's proven himself. And yet, at this time, Yaakov says, Yehuda, you're going to be the leader. Now, what's in Yehuda? He's not the firstborn. He's not the youngest. What is he's not seen as the tzaddik more than anyone else. The tzaddik is Yosef, is called Yosef the righteous. Binyamin is called the tzaddik. Why Yehuda? What is special about Yehuda that because of that he took on leadership? So what the Torah tells us about Yehuda is two things, two stories. One story, the second story that we read last week, where Yehuda took responsibility. He took responsibility for Binyamin. He when the Joseph wants to keep Binyamin by him, make him a slave, Yehuda says, no, you'll take me as a slave, and he should go back to his father. And he stood up strongly to the leader, who he didn't know was Joseph at the time. He just knew this was the foreign leader of a powerful superpower of the world at the time. Nevertheless, he stood up to him for Binyamin because he took guarantee for Binyamin. And why did he take guarantee for Binyamin? Because he took responsibility, because when he saw a need, he stood up. So that's great. And that explains something. But why more than Yosef? Yosef also sees, as we discussed in the past, Yosef sees a problem and he's there to find a solution. Why Yehuda? Maybe the fact is that Yehuda, the difference in Yehuda and Yosef is Yehuda failed. Yosef didn't. In other words, Yosef was always righteous. He always did the right thing. And sometimes we can't relate to that. Most people, okay, this is a tzaddik, this is a different person, something I can't relate to because I am not perfect. But Yehuda, in the first story that Torah tells about him, we find something fascinating. The story of Yehuda and Tamar. So Tamar is the daughter-in-law of Yehuda, marries one son who dies without children, another son who dies without children. And there's the idea of the levirate marriage, and Yehuda Tamar therefore should marry the third son of Yehuda, but Yehuda's afraid that what's going to happen to him if she marries him, something is happening here. So he says, you just go home and wait till he grows older. And Yehuda wouldn't have her marry his child. She felt that time that she needs to have children from Yehuda or his progeny, his children, or him himself, if no one else. And so she dressed up as a harlot, covered her face, didn't know who she was, and he lived with her, he slept with her, and she became pregnant. And then while she slept with her, he gave her the guarantee that he will pay her the shearings of a sheep. Until then, she had a seal, and she had a staff, and one of his garments. And then, all of a sudden, there's a tumult in town. Tamar is pregnant. She's pregnant because of, obviously, she's done the wrong thing. And Yehuda is indignant. How could she be pregnant? He doesn't know. He doesn't know that he was the one. He doesn't relate it to his story. She's the daughter of a Cohen. She's the daughter of Shem, son of Noach. And this is unacceptable. And according to the Torah in that time, the punishment is sreifa. It's hot lead down your mouth. Anyway, so Yehuda says, okay, that's what should be done. And she doesn't say anything, because to embarrass him would be like killing him. And she didn't say anything. All she did was she sent him the things they left her. She sent it to him and say, okay, Hakerna, recognize, is this where this comes from? And the Torah tells us the following. He would say she is being taken out for the death penalty. And that's when he gets proof. That's when he gets to know that he's the one who impregnated her. And Yehuda has a choice. He could either be quiet, not say a thing. In an hour or two, the whole story's gone. His secret dies with her and no one knows. Or he could say, no, this is wrong. There's a life here that he's responsible for. And what Yehuda does is he says, Tzatka mimeni. She's right. It's from me. And he doesn't give excuses. He doesn't say she seduced me. It's not my fault. He doesn't say any of that. He says, it's my responsibility. It's for me. And he owned up. And when the brothers saw that, and when that story came out, they said, that's the quality of a leader. He failed, yes. Initially, he failed. But when push came to shove, he stepped up. And he was ready to endanger his entire future, his reputation, and save her life for it. How many politicians would do the same? They know all they have to do is say nothing, and their problem would go away without them doing anything. But Yehuda stood up. And that's why Yaakov says, look, it's not me who's choosing Yehuda. Achecha, the brothers have chosen him. The brothers choose him because they see this is someone who really cares and is really ready to step up, even after you fail. And as we know, the difference that Talmud tells us between Shaul and David, who both failed. When Shaul failed, he says, well, the people, they convinced me, I did it for good reasons. When David failed, in the story of Bathsheba, whatever that failure means, Talmud tells us we can't understand it on face value. But nevertheless, the Torah tells us the story in that kind of a way to learn a lesson from it. When David fails, he only says, "Chatasi, I've sinned." Yep, it's brought up to him. I messed up. And that's what leadership is. You own up, you take responsibility, and you're ready to be there for your brother, for anybody. So that's the lesson we learned from Yehuda. That's why Yehuda was particularly chosen to be the leader of the Jewish people. Each one of us has a responsibility to be a leader in our environment. And the way to do so is to not make excuses, but to step up and to be there when people need us. We cannot say, oh, it's not my problem, it has nothing to do with me, let someone else deal with it. We should always be ready to stand up for what's right, to help when we can, and when we can, to find those who can, to do what we can to help another person. That's what leadership is. That's what is demanded of all of us, because we're all called by the name Yehuda, Yehudim. We're Jews. That means we're associated with Yehuda. That's what this message teaches us. So think about something that you know about, a place that needs support, help, something you could do. It could be with a phone call. It could be financial support. It could be with a good word. And stand up and be there for somebody. Good Shabbos.